Hello and welcome back to another episode of Quick Thoughts On, which is a video series in which I share with you, whether you like it or not, my thoughts on some Star Trek related episode. And this week I'm going to talk a bit about the animated episode, the Ambergris Element. When I was in my early teenage years, I have by pure coincidence found on TV the animated Star Trek show. I did watch the whole show. The only thing I remembered was that I hated it. About a decade later I watched the show again, when it came out on DVD. I watched it once and the only thing I remembered from it was the fact that I hated it. Then I watched the whole thing when it came out on Blu-ray last year. And yes, I still hated it, but I at the same time thought that I'm simply too old for this. The whole show is pretty weird. It's like in a few episodes they were trying to make it a proper sequel for the live-action Star Trek from the 1960s. But at the same time, during some other episodes I felt like they were trying to do just a stupid 70s kids show. Now I'm watching the episodes again, each of them at least twice before I make these videos, and to my surprise I did at least like all of the episodes I have seen until last week. I started to wonder why did I hate the series. Well, this week I had to watch the Ambergris Element twice. And I suddenly remember why I hated the animated series. If I should describe this episode with two words, they would be stupid mess. The structure is messy. It starts like a mystery, but then suddenly they get bored, so change the direction of the episode. The episode was probably also way too short, so they padded it with several action scenes. I'm not talking about good action scenes, I'm talking about Michael Bay-ish, what the hell is happening kind of action scenes. Nothing anybody does makes any sort of sense, even the dialogue sounds like it was written by a 10-year-old. The episode starts with the Enterprise releasing a special shuttle to explore Waterworld. No, not the Kevin Costner movie, not even the attraction, a literal Waterworld. Why? Well, some other Federation planet could turn into another Waterworld or some similar crap. Why are they doing scientific research from the shuttle boat thing and not from the Enterprise using the sensors? And what is the captain doing there? Kirk is a combination of a soldier and a diplomat, not a scientist. A surprise, a huge sea dragon fish thing attacks them. They phaser it away and notice correctly immediately that the sensors definitely should notice that something lives here. So they return back to the Enterprise and analyze what's wrong with the sensors. Right? Wrong. They follow the tentacle monster to the bottom of the sea. What a surprise, the dragon thing attacks them again. This time it damages the shuttle thing and Kirk and Spock fall out of it. The rest of the crew manages to return to the Enterprise, including the red shirt. What the hell? Can you imagine a film in which a monkey plays with a grenade and the monkey comes out of it unharmed? Or can you imagine a horror movie where the black guy survives? Anyway, they start the search immediately and after 5 days they find them. Again, what's wrong with the ship's sensors? Both Kirk and Spock are stranded and can't breathe on the surface. They were mutated into these fish-like creatures, so this is the mystery. And for the rest of the episode we are going to be searching for who did this to them, right? Nope. As I said, the story structure changes soon. McCoy puts Spock and Kirk to the biggest fish tank they have on the Enterprise, but Kirk is not happy. He wants to go back to the ocean and try to find out who did this to them. And of course, they find the fish people right away. They get captured and brought in front of the, let's call it the government. and we are fed with information that the young fish people found Spock and Kirk and mutated them, but the old fish people, because they are not violent, have erased their memories and threw them on dry land to die. So let me repeat it. The fish people have a technology how to mutate air breathers into fish people. Why do they have that technology? Have they ever contacted humans before? The writer can't be so dumb and think that all earth breathers have the same biology and therefore the same process would work on all earth breathers. Spock and Kirk are different species. There are many episodes where one of the plot points is that Spock's biology is different from humans. So how can the same technology work on both of them? And from what we have been told, the fish people mutated voluntarily from earth-breathing creatures, but they don't like air breathers because they were violent, and the fish people hate violence. That's why they decided to let Kirk and Spock die, non-violently suffocate to death. And killing them wasn't non-violent enough, so they had to also wipe their memories. Now, because they came back, the government has decided to let them suffocate on land, because it worked so well for the first time, and because they're so non-violent. But the female fish person saves their lives together with Scotty and the rest of the Enterprise rescue team, again. Then our heroes are informed that the mutation can be undone, but it's forbidden. The knowledge to it is in the old town, but they can't go there because it's forbidden. But they go there anyway, they find the medical records. How do they know that those are the medical records? Well, the symbol on those things looks slightly like the symbol used on Earth. Makes perfect sense. The author probably thought that the episode needs action, so the dragon octopus fish thing catches them, but gets buried under rocks because of a seaquake. Well, that was pointless. And you don't want to know how many pointless scenes I skipped already. Now McCoy manages to translate the document, because of course he can, and we are informed that to create the magic mutagen potion he needs more venom of the sea dragon, so they come back down to have another absolutely pointless scene featuring the red beast. Of course they get the venom only to get back to the Enterprise. McCoy creates an antidote because, of course, you can press Ctrl-Z on a mutation, and for some reason he splits it into 3 hyposprays, because we need more drama, I guess. Kirk seems to first die, because we need more drama, I guess. Then he gets transformed into an even bigger fish, because we need more drama. And then he, of course, gets transformed to a human again. But thankfully, the creators suddenly remember that humans usually can't breathe underwater, so in the next scene he's out of the tank. Then they shoot the phasers at the planet, and that's how they stop the seaquakes, because of course it works like that. And then suddenly a twist, we learn that the young fish people want to mutate back and live again on the ground, but the old fish people will stay in the ocean. But don't worry, they will forbid losing contact, and that was probably a joke. I don't know like you, but for me this episode was pretty hard to watch. I always try to find something positive about an episode. For example, I say things like, I liked the concept but not the execution, because I'm trying not to sound too critical. But I honestly don't know what can I say positive about this one. The story structure is a mess, the plot is stupid, things happen only because the plot demands it, the dialogue sucks, the animation sucks. I mean, when they're in water, sometimes you can see the water effect, sometimes not. The action scenes are confusing, everybody acts like an idiot. I don't really know what happened. I thought that this was written by a person who has never seen Star Trek, but Ambergris Element actually wrote 3 episodes of the original series, and 2 of them are actually good, and 1 tolerable. But she also wrote the Lorelei signal, which was also pretty messy, so I don't know what to think. I was thinking about giving this episode a 0, my first 0 if I remember correctly, but then I realized that I plan to give a 0 rating to several episodes from the third season, and this one is definitely slightly better, so I will give this episode 1 out of 10. But as always, these were just my opinions. What do you think about this episode? Do you love it or hate it? Have you actually seen it already? I'll leave your comments down in the comment section, and if you like this type of videos, I'm doing them every week, so hit that thumbs up button and watch any of the previous videos on my channel. You should see some links on screen right now. Thanks a lot for watching, and feel free to come back next week when I'll talk a bit about the slaver weapon. And I'm definitely not looking forward to review an episode where the main villains are huge pink cats. Thanks a lot for watching, see you next time, bye.